Welcome to Calm Coding, the weekly cybersecurity podcast covering the latest news and stories. This week we've got sources that, honestly, show a wild divergence in the threat landscape.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, on one hand, we're looking at these, state-level digital time bombs that are set to go off years from now.
Right. And then on the other hand...
On the other, you have these massive global institutions that are failing because they left the default password on a server.
It's a really stark reminder that the attack surface is it's everything. From the most sophisticated supply chain attack right down to basic human error.
So we've taken your source material, and our goal is to really pull out the crucial insights, the things you need to know so you can make sense of all this chaos.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start with that incredible failure that hit the headlines, the 88 million jewelry theft at the Louvre.
A physical theft, but the roots of it were completely digital.
Exactly. The physical security was breached, but it looks like the real cause was just a systemic failure of their digital security.
That's it. The lesson here is that convergence of physical and digital, audits showed the digital side of things was critically weak.
And it comes down to that one infamous detail, right? The password.
Yeah, the one that got reported years ago but apparently never changed. The rumored password for their surveillance server was just LUVRE.
It's almost a parody of a bad password. But it was real.
It was real. And if you use that as a baseline, it tells you a lot about their whole IT culture.
You mean it suggests a bigger problem?
Oh, absolutely. It tells you they were running on fumes. Beyond that one password, the museum was running severely obsolete systems.
Like what?
We're talking Windows 2000, Windows Server 2003.
Wait, Windows 2000? In a facility holding some of the world's most priceless artifacts, how is that even functional?
It's a huge liability. And on top of that, they had very little antivirus protection. When your software is that old, you can't even patch it anymore.
So you're just leaving decades-old vulnerabilities wide open.
Completely exposed.
Yeah.
And a physical side matched the digital weakness. Reports said only, 39% of the museum's rooms even had camera coverage last year?
So it was just a matter of time.
Pretty much. This really makes you ask, if a major global institution is failing at Password 101, at basic patching, what standard should any other organization hold itself to?
The fundamentals still matter most.
They're paramount.
That kind of structural weakness is just jarring, especially when we pivot to the next set of threats, which are anything but simple.
Right.
So let's go from a bad password enabling a physical theft to these highly sophisticated long-term attacks targeting industrial systems. We're talking digital sabotage on a national scale.
Yeah, this takes us into a whole different world. Strategic warfare, supply chain poisoning. Researchers just found what they're calling time bombs.
Time bombs.
Hidden inside 9 malicious packages that were uploaded to NuGet.
And for anyone who doesn't know, NuGet is the main package manager for the .NET framework.
Yeah. That's right. So tampering with a repository like NuGet is it's a catastrophic supply chain threat. Developers just implicitly trust these packages.
And when a package is poisoned, that malicious code just flows straight into thousands of other projects.
Precisely. And these specific packages, they were targeting industrial control devices, ICDs, and critical infrastructure. Things like manufacturing, energy, utilities.
So the really sensitive stuff.
The most sensitive, the most alarming example was a package called Sharp7 Extend. It was specifically designed to go after Siemens S7 PLCs.
Okay, so let's break that down.
Yeah.
Why is targeting a Siemens PLC such a high-impact threat?
Well, because PLCs, so that's programmable logic controllers, they're the hardware that turns digital commands into physical reality.
So they're running the machines in factories.
Managing flow in pipelines, controlling power grids, all of that. If you corrupt a PLC, you corrupt physical operations. And the timeline on these attacks, it's honestly terrifying.
What was the trigger date they found?
The code was designed to just lie dormant for years. It was set to activate specifically between August 8th, 2027 and November 29th, 2028.
Years in the future.
Years. And once it's active, the payloads would randomly kill the host process about 20% of the time, just cause instant shutdowns.
And for the PLCs themselves?
For the PLCs, it would corrupt their write commands 80% of the time, but only after a 90-minute delay.
So it's subtle.
Very. This isn't about a quick ransomware payout. This is long-term, calculated infrastructure destabilization.
It's just such a contrast. The long game of an attacker versus, a museum's short-term IT budget.
Exactly.
Speaking of things that refuse to go away, we have to talk about the persistence of some of these threats, specifically the return of DanaBot.
Ah, yes. DanaBot is back. Version 669 after being dark for about 6 months.
And this is a modular Windows banking trojan, right? The one that was supposedly disrupted by Operation Endgame.
The very same. A massive Europol-led international effort. They went after the distributors, the infrastructure, everything.
So after all that, after the biggest names in law enforcement took a swing at it, it just rebuilt and came back.
That's what it tells us. It tells us that disruption isn't destruction, and that the financial motive, well, it often outweighs the fear of getting caught.
So what's new about this version?
It's got significant upgrades, rebuilt infrastructure, fully encrypted command and control communications, and it now has expanded support for cryptocurrency theft.
Which ones?
Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Tron. The message is pretty clear. The threat didn't end, it just evolved.
So the advice is to block the new indicators of compromise immediately.
Immediately. Zscaler has identified them, and organizations need to act on that.
Okay, so we've hit structural weakness, long-term sabotage, and criminal resilience. Let's pivot now to the phishing economy. Attacks that are going directly after individuals and bypassing the defenses we all rely on.
Right, the payroll pirates campaign.
Tell us about that.
The payroll pirates are a great example of just how adaptive this stuff has become. They were using fake paid ads on Google and Bing to spoof hundreds of legitimate HR and payroll portals.
And they had a lot of success with that.
A huge amount. They tricked something like 500,000 users across more than 200 different platforms.
But that's just classic phishing. The really interesting part is how they got around multi-factor authentication, right? The very thing that's supposed to stop this.
Exactly. What's so sophisticated here is that the phishing kits they used weren't just static pages anymore. They implemented real-time interaction.
Now, what does that look like?
They're using Telegram bots. So when you enter your username and password into the fake site, it's instantly sent to the attacker.
Who then logs into the real site?
Instantly. So the real site then prompts them for the MFA code. At the same moment, the fake site you're on asks you for that same code.
So you get the text, you type it in.
And you've just handed it directly to the attacker, who uses it to complete their own login. It turns MFA into a race against the clock.
It makes it a human problem, not a tech problem. So what's the defense against that? Is it just user education at this point?
Education is a huge part of it, being vigilant about URLs. But the real technical safeguard is a shift toward things like FIDO2 or WebAuthn hardware tokens.
They're resistant to phishing.
Right, because they bind the authentication to the specific verified domain. That's the leap we need to really defeat this kind of man-in-the-middle attack.
That is great advice.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about another campaign, ClickFix, which is even more sophisticated. It combines that personalization with the pretty aggressive malware, and it's targeting the travel sector.
The ClickFix scam is just a brutal multi-stage attack. And it's all built on breaking trust. They don't even start by targeting the guests.
They start with the hotel.
Exactly. They compromise the hotels first. Often they'll just buy stolen Booking.com account credentials from dark web forums like Walt's team.
So they're using the hotel's own reputation as a weapon.
Precisely. They use those legitimate compromised accounts to then target guests directly through email and WhatsApp. And this is the critical part.
The messages have real reservation details in them.
Yes, your real dates, your real confirmation number. It makes the message look completely authentic.
And if I get a WhatsApp about my upcoming stay and it has the correct booking info, I'm going to trust it. No question.
Of course you are. That trust is the vulnerability. They lure you to a fake booking or Expedia site to verify your payment.
And steal your credit card details.
They steal your login, they steal your payment info. But it gets worse. The initial link often had a redirection chain built in that was designed to install PureOpt.
A remote access Trojan.
A very dangerous one. It can do keylogging, screen capture, even remotely control your webcam and microphone. So it's a double whammy credential theft layered with persistent spyware.
That is a huge escalation. Okay, finally, let's zoom out a bit. Let's talk about national policy and infrastructure because there was a recent funding crisis in the U.S. government.
Yeah, and this is a foundational issue that really impacts collaborative defense. On October 1st, there was a critical lapse in funding for two really essential pieces of legislation.
Which were?
The Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, or the CISA Act, and the Federal Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, FCEA.
So what's the status now? And why should a private company listening right now care about this?
Well, a stopgap bill was passed, but it only extends the funding until January 2026. And the reason you should care is the CISA Act.
That's the information sharing part.
Exactly. It provides the mechanisms for the private sector and the federal government to share threat intelligence. And crucially, it offers liability protection to companies that share sensitive data in good faith.
So without that long-term funding, companies might be less willing to share information, which hurts everyone.
That's the core issue. Experts like Gary Bartlett have pointed out that these constant short-term extensions, they undermine the trust and collaboration you need for national defense.
And the whole thing got tangled up in other politics, didn't it?
It did. The stopgap was tied to a vote on extending healthcare tax credits, which just shows you how complex and entangled cybersecurity funding has become.
So when you look back at all of this, what's the through line?
I think the lesson is that the range of attacker ambition it demands systemic vigilance.
Oh.
Everywhere. We've seen attackers planning years ahead with those NuGet time bombs.
And adapting incredibly quickly with DanaBot 669.
Right, despite massive law enforcement efforts, and they're actively bypassing what we thought were strong defenses, like MFA and the Payroll Pirates campaign. Every single vulnerability, from running Windows 2000 to a lapse in political funding, it's all being exploited.
This has been an absolutely critical look at the landscape. Thank you for helping us pull all these insights together.
Pleasure.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to consider. Given these highly sophisticated multi-stage attacks like ClickFix, which use your own real data against you, how much trust can you actually place in a personalized message anymore, whether it's email or chat, even when it contains details that only a legitimate company should know?
It really challenges our whole idea of how we verify things online.
It does. Thank you for joining us for Calm Coding. We'll be back next week with more essential cybersecurity insights.